I have a problem. I don't want to practice. So today, we're going to be settling for adequacy. We're going to learn how to play a piece without practicing. Sometimes being adequate is hard enough. So the idea of playing a piece without practicing initially sounds kind of ridiculous, but let me explain. When I was little, I'd go over to my weekly piano lessons and occasionally I'd be like, "Hey miss, can you play this piece of music for me?" She'd look at it and she just plays it really, really well. I spent months on this and as the young soul I was, I just thought it was some teacher knowledge just passed down from generations of teachers. Like, how you get the puberty or the menopause, you get the sight reading skills. Which is why I can do it now. No, it took me a while to do this skill, doing dumb things, inefficient things. But the skill has been cultivated. What we need is a random piece of music. There's only one good reason why anyone will be searching incognito, and that is to find sheet music for piano. So this is a massive archive of a whole bunch of sheet music for piano, other instruments too. And we're going to press a randomization button. This button is going to determine whether I get a list piece. And I'm going to restart the video if that happens. Anyway, that's my father's home. Who on earth wrote this? Why would you jump octaves like that? I guess we're doing this on. Here's what you need to know about this skill, more technically known as sight reading. The skill is comprised of two parts. The first is what you do before you play, and the second is what you're doing while you're playing. What you do before you play places an emphasis on your theoretical skill. In this period, you want to do as much as you can to make playing the piece as easy as possible. However, this will only take you so far. This is where the second part comes in, relying on your technical skills. In this period, you want to do as much as you can to make sure you're not thrown off course by any random things that are thrown towards you. We'll go through these techniques later on. Relying on both your technical skills and your theoretical skills are both very, very important to making sure your piece sounds as good as it can. Here's an example of what can happen. If your theoretical skills are very, very good, this can take you much further than other people. However, if your technical skills are lacking, it may mean you might not just have the coordination to pull off what the piece is asking of you. Now that we understand the general process of how this skill works, let's get into the meatier side of it. We're going to break down step by step of how to approach this skill. Or the vegetable side of it, if you're vegetarian. The key thing to do in the preparation period is to try and understand the piece as well as you can. And to do that, the very first thing we do is to learn the rules of the piece. Just like any sport you play or any game, there are rules to your music. You're going to find this at the very start. How are we going to count throughout the piece? The time signature tells us this. Is it going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? Or is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Next thing is your key signature. Which notes are you allowed to play? Which notes are you not? Do you process your Bs as a regular B or as a B flat? And the very final thing, and try not to forget this because I often forget it and it just ruins the whole piece, is your clefs. How are you going to process those lines in front of you? Is it your treble clef or your bass clef? And now with the rules in mind, we're going to start skimming through the piece. So as we're skimming through it, any notes you see, for example, if there's a B flat in your key signature, read all your Bs as a B flat so you start understanding the piece a bit better. The main two things you'll be looking at in this skimming period is any difficult sections you'll be approaching, and the next one is your patterns. Let's break down patterns. Patterns is where you get to show off all that practice you've been doing up to this stage. Most things in music aren't completely original. They source from other works, and then with a fusion of that, they make it their own. So when you're breaking down this music, see if you can spot anything that you've already practiced in the past. For example, it could be thirds, some octaves, an octave jump, a certain line in melodies, a chromatic scale. You've already practiced this in the past, so just apply it now. Even though it seems unfamiliar, when you break it down to the really constituent parts, it could be something you're already quite familiar with. So when I say patterns, it's more so connecting the dots, reflecting back to your old pieces and seeing whether you can make things work and just breaking it down to pieces that you can really understand. Let's backtrack a little bit. Earlier, when I was talking about what to do when you're skimming through the piece, I said the first thing to do was to go through difficult sections. Difficult sections really act as the centerpiece of your whole sight reading. It can be a source of a lot of anxiety as you just slowly just approach that section and you might just mess it up. So I recommend before you play, try and work it out. maybe just play it in your hands. If it's some difficult rhythms, work out the rhythms now. But the main reason why it's your centerpiece is because it determines your tempo of the entire piece, the speed of the piece. Find a tempo that you can play this difficult section at comfortably, and apply it to the rest of your piece. By doing this, you're making sure that you're not speeding up or slowing down throughout your piece. We know the rules of the piece. We know how to play the difficult sections. We understand our patterns. We know the tempo. But what's missing? Something is missing. You don't know how the piece sounds yet. So what do we do to fix that? With the tempo in mind, find the melody and sing it. And now we know how the piece is supposed to sound, both in rhythm and in pitch. Just gives us that general full circle understanding of the piece. And with that, preparations are complete. It's time to play the piece. But not quite yet, because we don't know what to do while we play the piece. As you're playing the piece, try and keep your eyes on the music as much as you can. Remember, you haven't seen this piece until today, so the way the notes unfold is something that you're not quite used to yet. However, the position of the keys on the piano is something that will never change, so trust that your hands will move to the right spot, or practice this skill and keep your eyes locked onto the sheet music and follow it as the piece unfolds. Now the next point is a continuation of the previous point because eye contact is very important. I say as I have trouble making eye contact with women. It's a very good habit to have your eyes a couple notes ahead from where you're playing. This means you can plan ahead as you're playing and it won't feel as though the notes are coming towards you, but rather you approach the notes. I'd start practicing this skill when you reach a long note hold. For example, a semi-brief, 4-beat hold, start looking ahead as soon as you play the note. There's no reason to be looking at that note that you've already played. The next skill is about resilience, something that I've gained from lots of rejections. You're bound to mess up, play the wrong notes, have wrong timing as you're playing the piece. That's a natural part of playing a piece without practicing. The most important part is that you keep the flow of the music moving forward. Tips to do that when you mess up: don't backtrack or start again from the beginning. Just start from where you messed up or move forward to the next bar. If you play a mistake, ignore it and just pretend like nothing happened and find the next right note. That's the next best move to do. Let's say you're failing at school, you're at a 44%. There's no reason thinking about all the mistakes you've done throughout your semester. All you have to think about is to push that grade up to that 50% on your last assessment. My final piece of advice is more of a mental one, but it makes a massive difference on your playing. And that is to not doubt your abilities as you're playing. When you see a note, just trust your hand and let it play the note that it moves to right away. If you doubt yourself and move your hand just a little bit, a centimeter away and then back to the right note, that's going to offset all your playing and it won't sound as smooth as it could. If you've been practicing really diligently up to this point, you have a lot of skills in your inventory. Trust these skills. If you read certain notes on the sheets, trust that you're reading the right notes and don't double check those notes. That's it for the explanations. Let's see if I can actually play this piece, see if I can pull it off. Hope you guys enjoy that performance. It's not something I'd usually be comfortable posting, but I just thought it'd be a good point of reference for you guys as you're trying this skill. I got a lot to work on still, but hopefully this video just gives you another source of possible enjoyment with your piano playing. The last point I want to make is when I'm playing now, I am so chilled out. There are no nerves on me. So don't compare yourself when you're playing in front of friends, right? That's a different story. That's when I get, don't even talk about it. So that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys enjoy the video and bye.